Once Upon a Time is not actually the exhibition I had anticipated creating for the Scottish Gallery this year. It was meant to be an exhibition of landscapes and still lifes inspired by two climactic opposites, the Arctic Circle and the Indian Ocean. But then along came COVID-19 and all my plans over the last year fell apart. So I spent the lockdown from early March in Dorset in the south of England, in rural Dorset in fact. It's a part of the world that I've spent a lot of time painting in over the years, and I love it. But when I got there in early March, I hadn't anticipated being there to paint, so I felt a bit confused, like we all did during the initial stages of this terrible period. And the thing which actually came to save me was that during those long weeks, which then became months, every evening I would read my daughter, who's 3 years old, some stories to go to sleep. And during that period, she was obsessed with fairy tales. And so Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Rapunzel, Snow White, those were all the stories which every night I would read through. And then during the day, because my daughter had become obsessed with princesses.
There's Queen Sonata and Princess Chichita.
Really?
And Princess Snow White.
Oh, well, they look lovely. She would pull on the most garish princess costumes that Walt Disney could provide, and she would go with her mother and little brother for walks in the countryside. And whilst I was painting, I would often catch sight of them appearing out of the forests or along the sides of streams, walking back to the place where we stay when we're down there. And at first it felt weird, and then gradually it began to look, for me, quite extraordinary. And I began to turn the series of paintings that I had been making into, in many ways, a reflection upon fairy tales, fantasy, the imagination and escapism, which basically is what we've all been after, I think, over the last few months. So the exhibition is a meditation on power of fairy tales and the imagination to some extent. The landscapes that I had already created, which were inspired by the Arctic Circle and a recent trip to the Lofoten Islands in Norway, transformed themselves because they suddenly began to absorb themes of the Snow Queen or Disney's Frozen, or all these evocations of fairy tale worlds that are completely blanketed in snow. And the Dorset landscape became much more of a sort of refuge, a beautiful place of flowers and flora, and the turning of the seasons as spring arrived. So the exhibition, I hope, is a little bit of escapism and an opportunity to return to a childhood state of excitement at the beginning of someone telling you a story.